I would have liked it very much to be in Dubai, but okay. Also with the Omicron variant, we are all at home. That's a pity. It seems to be very, very interesting there. And the relation between art on the one hand, technology on the other, politics is so important also for my personal biographical background. As you know, I'm from an artist's family, and I worked in the field of cultural politics and so on. And I always tried to get together technology, art, and politics. So it's a pleasure to be here and discuss with you. So what I'm going to present now is called Digital Humanism. That's also the title of the book. I use this expression since 2015, 2016 in speeches and discussions and some publications. And as it is sometimes, such an expression or such a conception or concept has its own career that you can control. So in the meantime, it's used in many areas in the world, especially in Vienna. This might be presently the hotspot with the initiative of the Manifesto Digital Humanism at the Technical University in Vienna, Hannes Wertner and colleagues. But then it has also got some attention, for example, in Southern Korea. The book is also translated into Korean, in Italy, and recently it will be also translated into English. And my hope is that the discussions we had that also cover some areas of Southern California, it seems, can then be expanded after the publication. And then there is a publication who is interested that the Technical University of Vienna initiated. It's about perspectives on digital humanism. It's a free download, so it's online on Springer International, so you can read some articles there. Now, what I'm going to do now in these this very few minutes is to present the philosophical core of the idea. So the first question is, what's humanism? And there are very different meanings of this term, and we don't go into that. I just present that account of humanism that I think to be adequate. And this account has to do with all these different variants of humanism since 2000 years, so to say, in our region since Plato, in other regions since Buddha, maybe, and so on. And I take it as the core concept of humanism to be human authorship. So the idea is humans are agents, or they are authors of their life. So they are responsible for what they do. They can give reasons for what they do. They have certain emotive attitudes, and these are not just events of nature. These emotive attitudes like resentment, gratitude, forgiveness, and many others are based themselves on reasons. I have a reason to resent. I have a reason to forgive. I have a reason for gratitude, and so on and so forth. So we have reasons for emotive attitudes. We have reasons for beliefs. We have reasons for actions, acts, and preferences. And these three, so to say, realms of our existence, of the human existence, are interrelated, obviously. So without emotive attitudes, there are no goals in our life. So we depend on having certain emotive attitudes. And without preferences and making preferences coherent, we are unable to act. Human agency depends on deliberating reasons and being guided by reasons. And democracy is that form of politics, political practice, that thinks or assumes or presupposes that humans are able to deliberate, and they are able to give advice regarding political decisions to be taken. So democracy rests on humanism in that sense. And humanity as a whole, in a way, rests on humanism, again, because we have the human rights tradition founded after the Second World War on the 10th of December 1948 with a general declaration on human rights. So this is, so to say, yeah, a humanist basis of humankind, even if there are very different interpretations and some are unhappy with this or that article, but that is more or less a consensus. And this dynamics that began after the Second World War, initiated originally by Jewish organizations, and then also by Southern American states, by India, not as sometimes people think by the Western states. Instead, Great Britain was opposing these developments. This has a dynamic still now. So the whole debate about anti-discriminatory rules and so on and so forth is based on that idea of universal, human, individual, collective, cultural, political, social rights. So this is to say, what's humanism? Humanism is based on human agency. And now, to be more concrete, human agency depends on certain conditions: social conditions, political conditions, economic conditions, conditions of formation, especially conditions of formation. Without formation, there is no humane practice possible. So this explains why humanism, to a large part, is about what is a good formation. How should education be? How should we develop our school system, and so on and so forth. So this is humanism. Now, what has humanism to do with digitization? I think it has a lot to do with digitization for some very obvious reasons. One reason is that digitization allows almost everybody, or presently the vast majority of the world population, that might change to have 100% within some decades, I hope. So they have access to the internet. They can use the sources of information. They can discuss, they can interact, they can assembly, they can initiate certain political projects, and so on and so forth. So the original idea of the World Wide Web as a realm of interaction, communication that is free from government decisions, that is free from power of certain firms, monopoles, and so on and so forth, is still vivid. But we know very well that these hopes didn't come real as the pioneers of the internet hoped. They didn't come real. And so the question is, how can we save the idea of a humanity that interacts and communicates as freely as possible, and that doesn't lose control on questions of how to frame the political systems within the states and internationally, globally, and don't lose control in the sense that everything is commercialized. So this is one of the first elements of digital humanism. The idea is we have certain conditions that tell that the original humanistic ideas of human authorship, of humane formation, are as relevant as they never were in history till now. Never were so relevant as now. We have to learn to discriminate between good and bad sources of information. So without good judgment, in German Urteilskraft, it's not so easy to translate that term into English. Urteilskraft, good judgment. Without good judgment, you are lost in space, so to say, in the digital space. And very many are lost in the digital space, as we see with populist movements that can't discriminate between reality and fiction, and so on. So make humans responsible for what they do, give them the possibility to take responsibility for their own lives, for their political judgments, for interactions, for cooperation. So this is a precondition of a humane development using these technologies. But we have to go 2 steps deeper into the philosophy of digitization and especially artificial intelligence. So we have presently 2 discourses going on. Some discourses are more confined to the academic sphere, others are in the newspapers, and others are already in place in the live world. I call these 2 discourses the animist and the mechanistic discourse. Now, to begin with the mechanistic discourse, as we have seen in other developments in science and technology in the past, this new technological development takes this form of technology as a paradigm, not only for technology, but also for the human as such, the human existence, the human being as such. It tells, for example, that the human brain is nothing else than something like a software system, a big algorithm, very complex, but it can be modeled by using the concepts and the theories regarding software development. This is an old idea. It's mechanism quite strong in the 19th century, of a different form, but essentially didn't change much. So mechanism. So we are machines, so to say, and now we see which kind of complex machines we are. If this were the case, then humanism would collapse. Humanism is based on the idea that we are authors, and authors are not machines. Machines are never authors. I can justify that thesis if you like, but I think it seems probably to be quite obvious. Now, the second discourse is the animistic discourse. It takes software systems as entities that have mental properties, mental states, that decide, that advise, that feel, that expect something, that have preferences. Probably then, if they have preferences, they have also emotions, because preferences without emotions are impossible. They have good or bad judgment. They are interactors. They are persons, maybe. Some tell, well, for the moment not, but we are within a development that will lead to such a situation. Yeah. And sometimes we hear a lot of fear about that these artificial agents sometimes take over control, and that we are then slaves or something similar. We lose control. Stephen Hawking, this famous and intelligent physicist, had this vision, and many others, even Elon Musk sometimes. So I take these fears as unfounded, but also the hopes unfounded, that software systems become something like a persons with whom we cooperate, interact, and communicate. It looks as if, but simulating something doesn't mean realizing something. This is the old mistake that logical behaviorism made, including Alan Turing, in a famous article in 1950 in the philosophical journal Mind. This is logical behaviorism. If something looks as it realizes that what it looks like. This is obviously wrong. And then there are more complicated arguments against strong AI, artificial intelligence, in that sense that software systems are endowed with mental states, and so on and so forth. And also against weak AI that tells that every human activity and every human performance can in principle be simulated, not realized, but simulated by software systems. And these counter-arguments use the Gödelian theorems of undeterminedness, but this would lead astray now to explain that in detail. You can find it in some articles of mine. I explain it there. Now, what does this idea of digital humanism result in practically? It results in what do we have to do to empower persons using digital tools for humane goals. The idea is how to make sure that we do not only not lose control, but that we empower people to take control where we are threatened to lose it. I give an example. For the first time in the modern industrialization history, the large part, almost all of the infrastructure of international communication interaction on the internet is owned by private firms, only some few private firms. This is a monopolized market. It's highly commercialized. And this means that the political decisions play a role, but only marginally. So, for example, we rely on the wisdom of Facebook or the CEO of Facebook to domesticate the communication that's going on and that threatens, in many cases, democracy, as we have seen, for example, on the 6th of January last year in the United States. This is a very strange situation, and I think we should change it. We should change it at least in the European frame, so to say. We have the chance to establish a infrastructure of digital communication and interaction that is not based on commercial interests alone. It is not owned by private companies. I plea for that for many years, and there are more and more persons who say, well, we should do that even within the European Parliament. So I hope that we get a step further there. Or to give another example, informatics is very important for the development, technological development. But if informatics is left alone, without social science, without the humanities, without the political and cultural aspects, then we have a very narrow-minded technological development. Those who develop software systems have to be able to judge good judgment regarding ethical and cultural and social aspects of what they are doing. And the younger generation is very open-minded in this respect. And this is one of the hopes of digital humanism, that we get along with the new generation that is sensitive about these questions of ethics, culture, and politics regarding technological development. And therefore, I'm quite optimistic. Thank you very much.